Hi everyone, it's Lynn from DevineCentral. You all know that I'm a big fan of the Celtic Cross, but today I want to take a little different tact and I want to talk about the five main pitfalls or mistakes that we can make when using this spread or actually any positional spread. And first and foremost on my list would be over-reliance on positional meanings. Now, it doesn't really matter where your messages come from. Some believe that they're from deep in our subconscious, and others believe, as I do, that the messages are spirit driven. But either way, if you give each position a specific meaning and you set the intention for that, then your subconscious mind or your spirit guides know where to place messages for you that you will understand. Okay, so let me show you an example here. I'm going to switch cameras. All right, so let's say, well, first and foremost, my card number one is the subject or the situation or whatever. But for me, if it's a court card, if it comes up as a court card, it is always about a person. Now, once in a blue moon, it'll be about the querent, but usually it's about someone else. So my first question is always going to be, who else is involved in this situation? Now, I had a lady come to me once and didn't want to give me a lot of information, just wanted to know about her family. And I said, oh, gosh. I said, do you have children? And she said, why, yes, I do. And I said, do you have concerns about one of your kids? Because I see that there's a lot of anxiety and a lot on your mind. And she said, well, I do. And so that helps me because Spirit Guide knows that I look at the Page of Swords in this position as a problem child. Okay, so let's take a different situation. Let's say that I have a woman in front of me. She's going through a divorce. It's not a pleasant one. She has young children. She's very concerned and upset about it. And the card number 7 for me is, what can you do to sabotage the situation? What can you do to make a situation worse? And let's say we get the 8 of Cups. And the 8 of Cups is obviously walking away. Well, you know what? She has young kids and they're going to all have a life, right? They're going to go through school and graduate from college and they're going to get married and they're going to have grandkids. And like it or not, she's going to be stuck with this ex for the rest of her life. So while walking away from situations that she doesn't like, or walking away from situations that no longer work for her, which is my definition of this card, that's not going to work in this situation, is it? She's going to have to find a better way. And that's where I guided her in this particular situation. That's what I helped her do, is find options of dealing with the situation without walking away. Okay, that's how you use positional spreads. Now, let's say we get this reading instead. So now somebody comes to me. She doesn't look good and she doesn't look comfortable and I don't like her body language. It's kind of scary. She just wants to know what I see and isn't going to give me any information. That's typical, by the way, of fairs and festival reading. I would tell her that, gosh, I see that she's in a very toxic situation and it's causing her a lot of anxiety. And right now, I don't think that she sees a way out or that she sees there is a way out. So when I get these cards and all right, what not to do, right? How can you sabotage this situation or make it worse? I get walking away. Am I going to tell her, you shouldn't walk away from this situation? Of course not. I'm going to let my intuitive hit, whatever spidey sense that I get when I turn this card over, that's what that card's going to mean. You always put the intuitive hit ahead of any position. And that's kind of what I did for her in that situation. I just said, you know what? maybe this is the time to walk away. So that's how that works. Let me give you one more example. Okay, let's say that we have this wonderful, happy family. It's crossed by the sun. Something exciting happened. There was celebration before. It's still on their minds. Some type of gift is coming. And we get this reading. We know that the crossing card is typically known for its block or its obstacle, right? Well, I look at this reading and I know that every single card that I have in my deck has a light side and a dark side or a shadow side. So what is it for the sun? I'm not going to look at this reading and tell the person in front of me, someone's going to get burned or someone's going to burn out in this situation. I'm not going to do that because that is obviously not in the cards, right? I'm just going to let her know whatever you have going, you have the universe's blessing. You have nothing standing in your way. And that is how you circumvent the positional meaning for your intuitive hits. So that's number one. So number two on my list is ignoring the question. And, when you lay 10 cards out in front of you, especially if all 10 are face up to start, which, by the way, I don't do. I do the cross first, and I save the staff for the path forward. And it really has helped me concentrate and hone in on what and stay focused on the question and what I need to do. But first and foremost, writing down the question really can help you stay focused if you're constantly reviewing it and trying to, keep the thing in context. But what I have found is that over time, sometimes Spirit wants to answer their question or will validate it right away in the subject card, number one. But oftentimes I find that Spirit has its own agenda and wants to talk about what it wants to talk about. And I now tell people that, hey, I'm going to lay down, we're going to try to answer your question, but be forewarned that if Spirit has other messages for you, they may be of more importance to them. And people are more interested now in what Spirit has for them than their own question. But anyway, I digress. So I had a 65-year-old woman come to me, sat in my chair at an event. She had buried her husband 5 years prior after 30 years of marriage, and she wanted to know if she was going to find love again. And it's like, okay, so we laid out the cards, and I got every travel card there was in the deck, starting with card number one. And I had one cup, and that cup was the 8 of Cups, which of course is moving on, right? So it's still moving. And I went through and I kind of did a reading for her. And I said, I honestly, Spirit wants you to travel, wants you to expand your horizons, wants you to get out there. I mean, let's face it, you can't want to find love and then sit home and not go out and do anything, right? Unless you're looking for love with a plumber or a pizza delivery guy, right? Someone coming to the door. So I told her, I said, for some reason, Spirit wants you to travel. Now, I don't see love coming up in the next 6 to 12 months for you. It doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. It just means that if you were to get out and expand your horizons, you might meet someone and then the reading might be completely different. But because you haven't done that yet, the universe doesn't have an answer for you on that. And at the end of the reading, she was very, very kind and finally smiled because she was very stoic. And she said, 2 weeks ago, I contacted a travel agent and I was sent a handful of brochures that I've been reviewing. And, it kind of made sense. So you really do need to speak what you see and say what you see because even if you don't understand it, they will, right? Okay, so you still need to come back and answer the question. You really should. And to me, the answer was not at this time. But yet we still spend all of our time on the other. Okay, so it's just an option. By the way, I did just do a video not very long ago called Tarot Fail, and it's about cards in the tarot deck that specifically say, I'm not going to give you an answer, and kind of how to deal with some of those. So you can look for that on my channel. Okay, so option number 3 is very closely dovetailed with number 2, and that is overlooking the context of the situation. Now, the best way to stay in context for me, I learned, was when I journal, and I do have a very large journal of all my cards, and I start with, what I consider the light side of the card, and then the shadow side of the card. But then I have 5 sections, and they are love, finances, work, career, health, and personal growth or personal development. And I have journaled all the meanings to me that are in context for that card with each one of those segments. So when a card comes up, I kind of am prepared to look at that card or read that card in context. And trust me, it's very, very helpful if you do that. And that seems like a lot of work for some people. It really is an undertaking that happens over time, but it's an analytical way of training your brain to recognize all the different possible scenarios, meanings, whatever, in each card. But, once you do that, you let it go, just release it into the universe, and then you rely on your intuition. Because the brain is an amazing filing cabinet. It knows just which drawer to open and which file folder to yank that information out of when you need it the most. Okay, so pitfall number 4 would be focusing on a negative outcome. So I'm going to change screens again here. Sometimes we just get a whole slew of really negative bad cards. And it can be kind of depressing, looking at them, and maybe a little overwhelming, trying to come up with, some type of a plausible storyline for this. But you know what? It's all about philosophy. I believe that every card in the deck has a positive side and a shadow side or a negative side. And honestly, sometimes that negative side or that shadow side could be a blessing in disguise. So here's a reading. Here's an example of a reading that, could you get any worse than this? It's a matter of trying to, help them find the path through something that is bothering them. Now, there's only 2 swords here, so only so much of it is mental. And actually the moon, I think, would be mental as well. But let's say that your final outcome is the 10 of Swords. And it's like, oh my God, that's a terrible outcome. Now, to me, again, my positional meaning for this, for the number 10 is, this is the likely end result if you do not take any advice or change your current direction. So keep going on your current path, and this is likely where you'll end up. And that is as opposed to, take all the advice and here's your future. You have to pick one. And I chose that. To me, from all my readings, it made more sense if this was the current path and you made no changes. So the 10 of Swords, oh my gosh. How many swords does it take to kill somebody? 1? Okay, there are 10 here. To me, that is overkill. That is melodrama. That's somebody making a whole lot of drama that's not necessary. Okay, so overthinking it, overreacting to it. But the sun will come up the next day, and it's in almost every 10 of Swords. But I also, look at this as hey, how lucky are you that you get to know where your where your path is leading, and you can make minor small changes in your direction and change the course of history because you have free will. So if you don't like the last card that you see, then make a change. Then we can go in and talk about, hey, let's pull some cards on what directions you have options to, right? Okay. So that's kind of how I look at that. And you can use that in any one of these positions. So number 5 would be using the Celtic Cross to make major decisions in your life. And, you know, when my life looks like this, I put my cards on a shelf and I walk away. That's just me. But there are a lot of people, a lot of individual readers who will pull a card or 2 or 10 every day, and they rely on the message that they pull from that card to get them through the day or the week or the month. And if it doesn't make sense, or if it doesn't come to fruition, they get very, very frustrated by it. But I feel that when you are in a specific situation, you really need to use your own common sense and then use the tarot deck to help you ferret out your options and what would be in your best interest. So try not to pick up your cards when you are frustrated or fearful or confused or pissed off, or something bad has just happened in your life. Try to abstain from that. Make it through your situation. Drain some of that emotion out of the equation, and then pick up your cards and let them help you move forward. So if there's anything negative about using the Celtic Cross, it would be those 5 mistakes. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Please give it a thumbs up if you made it this far, and I will see you on the next video. Bye-bye.